Somewhere in this vast cemetery, beneath the silent shadows of weathered tombstones, lies a tale of courage and resilience, a story etched in the annals of the Old West, waiting to be discovered. While his grave has since been lost to the sands of time, his story reverberates through the canyons he once explored, through the rivers he bravely navigated, and through the challenges he fearlessly faced. From the uncharted waters of the Colorado River to the dusty trails of the Old West, his journey was nothing short of extraordinary, his life a testament to the indomitable spirit that defined an era. But how did this daring adventurer, this hero of the American frontier, find himself buried in this remote Arizona cemetery? To find the answer, we must first start at the beginning. Andy Hall was only 19 years old and working as a boat rower along the Green River in Wyoming when he was spotted by Major John Wesley Powell. Powell was impressed by the young man's boating skills and asked Hall to accompany him on his Colorado River expedition. Powell promised him a long and grueling adventure, filled with thrilling dangers, bone-chilling cold nights, delightful encounters with wild creatures, and of course, the sheer joy of rowing against the relentless currents of the mighty Colorado River. The journey began on May 24, 1869, with 10 men and 4 boats. 3 months later, only 6 men and 3 boats completed the journey, the first successful navigation through the Grand Canyon, the last uncharted territory of the American Southwest. After emerging from the Grand Canyon, Hall and another expeditioner, Billy Hawkins, continued down the Colorado River until it spilled into the Sea of Cortez. They were the first men on record to do so, and the only 2 for decades. After his successful maneuvering of the Colorado River, Hall subscribed to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. Be like Hall. Hall then moved to Arizona Territory, stopping first in Prescott, then moving on to the small town of Florence. There he worked as a constable and a shotgun messenger for Wells Fargo, guarding precious cargo on the Casa Grande to Globe stage route. It was on this very route that Hall's mettle was challenged once again. On August 20th, 1882, Hall was on the stagecoach guarding some $5,000 in gold for the mine payroll. Due to the rough terrain along the trail, when the stage got to Pioneer Pass, Hall and a man named Frank Porter transferred the goods from the stage to a pack mule, as they had done many times before. The pack mules would then carry the load the rest of the way to Globe. As they loaded the strongbox onto the lead mule, they didn't realize that Cicero Grimes, a photographer from Globe, was watching from the chaparral. Once the gold was loaded onto the lead mule, Cicero rode off to meet up with his brother Lafayette and their accomplice, Curtis B. Hawley. Cicero told them not only which mule carried the gold, but also what weapons Hall and Porter carried. Cicero then rode off, returning to Globe, leaving Lafayette and Hawley to act on their newfound knowledge. Meanwhile, Hall and Porter began their journey from Pioneer Pass up the steep embankment to Globe. Hall was in the lead, and Porter was bringing up the rear. As they came around a bend, Lafayette and Hawley were waiting. The 2 bandits fired upon the lead mule, killing it instantly. The other mules reared up and began to run in the opposite direction. In the chaos that ensued, Hall fell from his mount and was injured, but that didn't stop him from summoning every ounce of his determination and resilience. He made his way back to Porter, undeterred by the pain, his eyes ablaze with a fierce resolve to inform his associate of the ambush. Porter told Hall that it was most likely Apaches, and together they hatched a plan. Porter would ride a back route to Globe to alert authorities, while Hall would stay behind and track the bandits. Meanwhile, Lafayette and Hawley untethered the strongbox from the felled mule, pried it open, and moved the gold into sacks, and began their own journey back to Globe. Along the way, they encountered Dr. W. F. Vail, a druggist from Globe, who knew them both. Fearing the doctor would be able to identify them to authorities, they shot him and left him for dead. They continued their journey and soon noticed Hall following their tracks. At this point, however, Hall was still convinced Apaches had attacked their mule train, so they all traveled together amicably for a while. That is, until Hall became suspicious of the heavy bags they carried. It was then that Holly shot Hall in the back, and the two fled. This didn't stop Hall, though. Despite the grievous injury to his back, he continued to chase the bandits down. He emptied his Colt revolver at the bandits, and they fired back multiple times, mortally wounding him. As he lay dying, Lafayette delivered one final shot, killing Hall instantly. Meanwhile, Porter finally returned to find Hall dead, and Dr. Vail gravely wounded. Before he died, Vail identified his killers as two men from Globe. He was able to describe them, but he couldn't remember their names. Law enforcement from both Gila and Pinal counties were recruited to hunt the killers down. Sheriff Pete Gabriel found some spent cartridges at the scene and connected them with a gun that had been lent to one Lafayette Grimes from Globe. Gabriel found Lafayette working at a mill north of Globe. Gabriel went in undercover, pretending to be a witness to the crime. And this is what happened next.
Hey, I know you. You're the feller that shot that shotgun messenger up at Pioneer Pass.
You got the wrong man. Wasn't me.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Shot him 3 times.
No, man. I only shot him twice.
Needless to say, Lafayette was arrested on the spot, and the arrest of Hawley soon followed, but the gold could not be located. The men, perhaps feeling pressure induced by Gabriel, quickly admitted to the whole crime and said they had buried the gold out in the desert in the hopes of retrieving it once things settled down. Gabriel planned on taking the pair down to Florence to avoid the angry mob that was already forming. Before he could do so, however, the citizens of Globe descended on the jail, took Lafayette and Hawley into the desert, forced them to dig up the gold that they had stashed, then returned to Globe for their own brand of justice. On August 24th, Lafayette and Hawley were strung up in the center of town at a site now known as the Hanging Tree. Cicero Grimes, having not participated in the killing, was sentenced to 21 years at Yuma Territorial Prison. Wells Fargo paid for Andy Hall's burial, one of the benefits they accorded their employees who died in the line of duty, and Sheriff Gabriel used his reward money to mark the grave at the Globe Cemetery. Unfortunately, over the years, the details of Hall's final resting place have faded into obscurity, lost amidst the passage of time and the shifting sands of history, leaving his legacy to echo in the winds, a tale whispered among the ghosts of the Old West. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. Unfortunately, because Andy Hall is buried in an unknown plot somewhere in the cemetery, this sign is as close as we're going to get to seeing his grave. But we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. And in the meantime, I'll catch you on down the trail.